we were bringing food for the entire crew because they were shooting pickups.
Yeah.
And I had a few other interns with me, and we went down to the set to give them their food. And someone else was making noise, not one of us, but they all turned to us and they were like be quiet, like we're filming.
Damn.
And I was like, okay. And I was quiet. I stopped moving. I just like held whatever I was holding. And one of the other interns like literally drops an entire plate of food.
Oh my God.
And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? I was like, and then it looks bad on me because I'm an intern too.
Welcome to Behind the Credits. And today we're starting our first episode of the podcast with our first honorary guest, Nik.
Woo.
So tell them a little bit about what you do.
So right now I'm an editor for a company based out of New York. I have been in the air quote film industry for 5 years now.
Wow.
But I just graduated college in, technically May, but like it was really February when I stopped going to classes.
Yeah. So what I really want to start with is I noticed, like, looking through all the stuff that you've done, that you put like 100% effort into all your projects. And I noticed that you're just grinding it out. So I'm wondering, where does all this passion come from? Where did you start?
Well, a little bit, I think, is it less to do with like actual film industry and more to do with like me as a person, where I feel like if I'm not putting 100% into it, it's not worth my time. And I feel like, and this is probably like a mental illness, but it's like I have to give 100% or I don't feel good about myself and I don't feel good about the work I've done until I know that I've given it my all. And I think film kind of fell into my lap as like an idea that I could try and give my all into. And it really lends itself to that. Like, it's a really tough industry. Like, I really haven't even worked in it that long comparatively, and I can't claim to know everything about it. But from what I have seen, it's very tough, especially when you're not putting, your life behind it.
So it's really an all or nothing kind of industry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that depends on like what jobs you have and like if you're above the line and below the line. But I think across the board, it's a lot of like, this is your life. And it's rare to find, or not rare, but I think it's less common to find people who have like, the typical like family situation where it's like wife at home or wife's second job and kids, or husband and like whatever. I don't think it's not doable. Like, I've met like many people who can do that. For me, I haven't had to figure that out as I go, but it's very much a like do or die type thing.
Dang. Well, that's pretty intense. Why film though, like specifically? Like, what about the screen like speaks to you?
So I used to be, and I guess I still kind of am, like a photographer. I really, really enjoy photography, as in like you can tell something through one single frame. And through high school, I was very much like I'm photography bound. And then I took some video classes, and it's like, I kind of like editing. I have a knack for computers, I think, as you do, and as like most people our age do.
Yeah, just clicks.
Right, it clicks. So I was like, okay, I can put these two things together. And then I just started editing, and I think I started, you're going to laugh at me, I think I started like when I think I was like 13 or something.
Dude, that's early. Oh my God.
I would edit videos of, like, I bought a GoPro. I saved up money. I bought a GoPro, and I strapped it to myself and like members of my family, like one time where we went like skiing or some shit like that.
Yeah.
and then I took it and I edited it on my iPad on iMovie.
Yeah.
And that was the first, like, I think project that I worked on, and I was like, this is fun. And then I moved into like a little bit of like video game editing. I did a lot of
Like, what's
like,
video game editing? Are you like editing clips that you've done or something?
well, yeah, so like in high school, I think it was like early high school, probably sophomore year. So I was like 14, 15, maybe
Yeah.
pushing 16, I don't remember. I'd play a lot of League, unfortunately.
I remember that. I played with you a few times. Yeah.
So I would record the games, and because I was watching people at the time, like Donkey, I was watching Darkmane, I was watching Trin Immortal, if you remember him.
No, I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
He's the only person, he's like the most famous person to reply to me on Twitter.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's not, because he's got like maybe 20K followers, but
It's still
but anyway, I was watching a lot of that, and I would edit League videos. They're terrible. They're really bad. Yeah. They're unlisted private videos on YouTube that no one's ever going to see. But, you know.
You started somewhere. That sounds pretty cool.
Of course. And then when I was looking for schools, I wanted something that had that as well. I was lucky enough that Ithaca gave me a lot of money. It's a very expensive school, but they gave me so much that it was like, all right, I'll take out loans to like cover the rest, and I'll be able to make it barely. But I did it.
Was it worth it? Do you think that education was worth it?
That's a really good question, and I constantly ask myself that. Like, oh, is the, like, I mean, in all honesty, like, I'm not in like that much debt, but like, I'm just gonna give a random number. Like, was it worth the like $30,000 that I continually owe? To the government, which fortunately enough, we didn't have to take out any private loans.
Yeah, that would be way worse.
Yeah, because they can be really bad. But I think that yes, it was worth it. I mean, because what's $30,000? Like a brand new mid-tier car, right?
Yeah.
For a lifetime of education. I mean, I paid more than that. Like actually paid more than that.
Like, I feel like just oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just saying that's how much I borrowed.
Like, so like in your later career, do you feel like it really paid off though? Like the education like was applied?
Yeah, I think a lot. It's very interesting because at the school I went to, it's very well known for having graduates in the industry. And so I knew that going in, and I was like, you know, not the same principle, but I am paying for the name, right?
Yeah.
And paying for, you know, the CEO of Disney who graduated from Ithaca to be like, I know this school, I'm going to prefer these people, right? Not that I would work for Disney, but I thought I was going to at some point, like, oh, I might as well. And then now I'm like totally against it.
Oh, really? It doesn't jive with you, or what's wrong with it?
It doesn't. I think it's the way that they own like everything. And I don't like the fact that like they have so much control over media and no one is holding them accountable just because they had money.
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of ridiculous, but
yeah, it's scary, honestly.
What are you gonna do? Yeah, I mean, it's scary, but
yeah.
So I guess that kind of answered your question, but not really.
No, it did. It was a really good answer.
I have a better like sidebar to that.
Let's hear it.
Most of the jobs that I've had or gotten, aside from like probably one, I've gotten through Ithaca recommendations, or someone knew someone else at Ithaca or something like that. So it's been like my current job I got through. I worked. I'll get to that later.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to spoil the rest of the podcast.
You got a whole storyline to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was looking through your Ithaca is actually like rated by some news outlets as like the best film school in the area. Like it's pretty impressive that you got into it to begin with. Like, what
Yeah,
did it
I mean,
take to do that?
it's funny, because I think from the outside, it definitely has that perception. That's what I thought when I went into it.
Yeah.
And then being in there, it was like, no, not at all. Like there's some like really, no, I don't want to scrutinize myself, but there were a lot of people who I think were young and misled into what they
Mm.
wanted to do. And, I saw, like, I could argue that I was as well, but I think there was a lot of people who didn't have that drive or that passion, who just went um, there because they had an interest, but didn't want to put in the effort or the work. And so in my time there was a lot of there were a lot of really talented people that I went to school with. For example, I hate to bring this up. Do you know Ted Nivison on YouTube?
I think so. I'm not
He's
sure.
got I think he's almost a million now, but I went to school with him. I worked on his film. Do you
Yeah.
know the real Sully G? He does the automaton songs.
I don't. I'll look it up though later for
Okay,
sure.
yeah, he's got a lot. I TA'd a class for him. He's so nice. He's just a nice dude. But those are two examples. But I think that Ithaca has the air
Yeah.
of impression, and you can be really talented coming out of it if you put your heart into it and you work really hard.
Yeah.
But for the people that didn't, obviously, didn't
Yeah, it doesn't pan out for
the
them.
right way.
Not at all. Yeah, that's an interesting environment. Like, how is because I'm hearing a lot about like the community and like people offering you jobs from Ithaca, like alumni are joining your projects. Like, I noticed that you actually worked on Lifeline Unlimited, a short film by an alumni.
Yeah, so that was Dante's film. I went to school with him. He was a year above me, and I met him for the first time. So when I went to school, I was like, I need a job, and if I don't have a job, I don't deserve to be here. As in, like,
Oof.
I can't like afford it, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is how it's gonna be, right? Like, if I didn't have a job, I would have been so lazy. I wouldn't have gotten anything done. It was kind of just like I forced myself to do it, and I'm so glad I did. So I met him the first time freshman year, like the probably first day I've ever set foot on the campus.
Wow.
I walk into the world working, and he's there. He's not. And I'm sorry if he hears this. I'm sorry, Dante, but he's not a very tall man. He's not like super short either. But I think the first thing I noticed was like, this kid's short. But anyway, he was a year above us. Very good taste in music, or interesting taste in music, and like, that's how I think he rubbed off a little bit on me, and I've started to expand my music taste a lot because of that. But anyway, I've known him for a while, and then when he was a senior, you have to do a thesis project, and I was living with him the year before, and we were talking about me working on it, and for the whole year we were like, okay, I'll edit it, and then I did, and it was fun. I unfortunately didn't get to be on set for that.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting because I put a lot of work into that film, and so did Dante. Like, he really did. But
what did that work look like?
Okay, so from the very beginning, it was, let's look at the script and see what's possible and what's not possible under your budget, right? So I remember for a while he was like, there's going to be this like 3D crazy thing in the room, and it's going to act like a character. And I was like, that is not happening. I am not doing that. I don't know who you're going to find to do that. Unless you have $100,000 of budget just for that, which you don't.
Are you hiding it somewhere? Like that sort of stuff?
I don't know where you put it. So my process was, let me figure out how I'm going to manage the media, which is all of the files that come right off the camera or the sound things on set. So originally I was supposed to be on set. I was
So
actually
why
in
do you have to
Japan
manage
while they
that,
were
actually?
shooting.
Oh, you were in Japan? Were you with Champ?
While they were shooting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Um,
Wait, so why do you have to manage the files? I'm curious about that.
so they're really large.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you know, like a video file in general is large, but then you take, I think they were shooting 4K. So it's like,
Oh,
now you got a 4K shot in RAW, which is a color space,
yeah.
uh, which makes the file larger, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, because the RAW file contains more information about each pixel. Like each pixel holds more color information, which
Okay.
equals more data. So that in post, when you're doing color, you have more range of like, I can change this more.
Yeah.
It has more of an ability to change than it would if it was
So
compressed.
when you go to like color grade it, it would have more like opportunities to become something different. Is that what it's for?
Yeah, so you can change the values of the pixels more than
Okay.
you would. And that results into large file sizes, and also
Okay.
results in me having hard conversations with directors about you need to get 2 hard drives at the least, and you need to have them be minimum 4 terabytes, because if you
Yeah.
want any, like, if you want your film, you gotta spend the money to have the film, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think in the film world, where like actual film, physical film, people
Mhm.
would not think twice about paying for that, right? Because that's what you're shooting on. But the second you go digital, people are like, I don't want to spend money on hard drives.
What?
Where is it gonna live? Like, you're just gonna shoot it and it's magically gonna be done?
Mhm.
No. So that
Yeah.
was a big part, was like getting him to buy the drives, figuring out a process of how to offload the footage from the camera to the drives. And then when I started, I did a proxy workflow,
Okay.
which, so at the time I was editing on my 2016, yeah, or 2015 MacBook Pro.
Oh my gosh. I just bought one of those. Those are garbage. Absolute
Yeah,
trash.
they're bad now. At the time, I also like decked it out. Like I paid a lot of money to make it like the highest quality for anyone who need it.
Mhm.
And it was struggling really hard with 4K files, right?
Yeah.
So a workaround for that a lot of people do is, what they'll do is edit with lower resolution footage. So
Yeah.
you'll make copies, proxies, of the 4K footage in like either 1920 or 720p,
Okay.
and edit with that. And then when you're done, you relink it all to the 4K and export. So you're not slowed down while you're editing. You're only slowed
Mhm.
down when you export.
Do you lose any like of that quality doing that?
You lose the quality during the edit. So like, I'm not going to be able to see all the super fine details when I'm cutting it. Premiere actually has a good workflow where you can link proxies and hit a button and it switches between proxy and
Wow.
full media. It's kind of janky and it doesn't work all the time. But that's what I was doing if I needed to like punch in. And so the benefit of having a 4K shot is that we all know that it's going to be output at 1920 by 1080, right?
Yeah.
There's no future in which this student film is released as a 4K film.
So why do the 4K then if you're going to be 1920 by 1080?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in post, if there's things in your shot, right,
Yeah.
that are not supposed to be there, for example, a water bottle left from on set is like hanging out in the corner. Because you're
Yeah.
in 4K, you can punch in. So you can literally just increase the scale of your clip and lose that water bottle, right? Reframe your shot and
Okay.
still be at a proper resolution. Like, you're not
I
going to be
got it.
losing quality because you're still above 1920. Once you start to
Got it.
go past that, so I think over like 220% when you start to
Mm.
lose quality. Yeah, that's one advantage.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So what was your title doing this job? Like what is your profession when you're working on this project?
I was the editor. Yeah.
So you're the editor. Okay. That's
Editor,
pretty cool.
assistant editor, motion graphics person. I also did the end credits.
Okay.
Um,
So you're so as an editor, what is like your workflow? Like what are you talking to the director about? What is your actual like job necessarily? Like are you getting all the footage at once and then editing it, or is it like something that you do like as the process is going along?
That's an interesting question. So there's a thing called dailies that you do
Okay.
as that you can do as you're shooting, right?
Mhm.
So typically an assistant editor or DIT, which I'll explain in a second,
Okay.
they will do your dailies, and that's
Got it.
so that after set, when people go home to go to bed and then wake up the next day to shoot, the director or any creatives on the project, so the producers, exec producers, whatever, they can watch all the footage they shot today and say like, oh, like we do have good takes here, or we don't have good takes here. And if they
Mhm.
see it and they say, you know what, that's not really working, they can schedule in more time to get those shots the next day instead of after production has entirely wrapped and they're like months later in the editing process, oh no, we need a better take of this, right?
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
So that's what dailies are for, and they're very rough. It's just you take all the files, you put them in a timeline back to back, and you export them. You put on a very, very easy color, probably a LUT that you throw on there that I'll explain in a
Yeah.
second. You throw on a LUT that doesn't necessarily reflect the footage
Mhm.
in its final form, but gives a general idea. And then you export it and give it to them. That's a daily, and that's kind of like you edit as you go, right? And this is for film and
Yeah, got it.
TV and episodic TV now.
Yeah.
Then once everything's done and wrapped, you get the footage to your editor. So it's like either on a hard drive or whatever.
Yeah.
So I get the hard drives. I organize them. That's a huge part post is organization. So having a good file
Okay.
structure of like, where is my footage? What shot is what shot?
That must be a
Uh,
nightmare.
it sometimes can be. Another thing that people have to do is sync audio video.
Mhm.
Usually assistant editors do that, but when you're the only editor on it, you are also doing that.
Mhm.
And just making sure that your audio files that are recorded on set are also syncing with your shots at the
Got it.
same
Got
time.
it.
So what things and what terms did I say that didn't make sense?
Something with like an MIT or something like that. That was the only one that
DIT.
DIT.
Yeah,
That's the
so
one I didn't
that's a
get.
really cool job, and I think I want to pursue that once Corona is over and I can go
Yeah.
back on set. I think it stands for digital imaging technician.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Um, you are responsible for media management on set, so you get to go hang out on set all day. You get the footage. You have to make sure it's organized in somewhat of a fashion, backed up, so it's on two separate drives,
Yeah.
two instances, just in case something happens, at least two, um, and uh, sometimes to do preliminary color or whatnot, but just ensuring that everything's backed up and you have the footage. A lot of DITs are also assistant editors, so
Oh,
they can do dailies while, when you're on set, you offload
yeah.
your footage typically twice, and that's at lunchtime
Okay.
when everyone's done working, and then at wrap when everyone's done working.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
so DIT doesn't really, I mean, you should be there in the morning, but you don't really need to be
Yeah.
because you don't have anything to work with. But what a lot of DITs will do is, as an assistant editor, work on dailies in between that period where they're not doing anything.
Got it. Got it. So
And
it's
that's
kind of
what I
like
did.
taking on two jobs almost.
Yeah, that's what I did for Shrapnel, which is a film in 2018. I don't know if there's even a link for that
Yeah, I didn't
alive.
find that, but what's that about? What was that experience?
It's fine. A lot of these are like character-driven dramas.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of action stuff. I don't do crazy things, or I haven't done crazy things yet.
Yeah.
But that was fun. That director is different, and very cool to work with.
So I have a question about like the relationship between the director and the editor. That's what I've always been curious about. Because when I see a film, the editor pretty much gives the last touches before it goes out. That's how I see it. So how does the director interact with their editor to get what they want?
More often than not, at least from my experience on like student films, the director will sit in with the editor on certain edit points, right? So if you're like, okay, I'm going to watch this cut, right? The director goes and sits down and watches the cut and then gives their opinions and thoughts.
Oh, your mic, it's a little too far away.
Oops.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So you'll watch a cut with the director, with the exec producers, whatever, and get their notes. That's typically
got it.
It's typically client notes, but the director has a more hands-on approach where they'll be really sitting down with the editor more frequently, giving notes and being like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, specifically, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a working relationship of the editor can decide like, I think this, sorry, I think my chair's breaking again. I broke that one yesterday.
Oh. Yeah. Wait, you broke your guitar yesterday?
No, the chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was sitting and it just snapped in half.
That's how hard you're working.
I was eating too much. No.
Yeah.
There's a really working relationship, and there's an interesting like push and pull between an editor and a director of, a director asks for something, an editor can see if it works, but also has their own kind of like contextualization of, hey, I think that the pacing's off here. I don't think this is really going to work as a shot. Or, hey, you know what? We don't have that shot. We don't have a good take of that. So we're going to have to figure out a different way to make it work, right?
Yeah, got it.
And so the editor is responsible for making it work. So like the other day I was editing something and there was a section where the talent had like a 3-second pause in their dialogue that wasn't supposed to be there. That was definitely not supposed to be there. And we're like, how are we going to cover that without a jump cut?
Yeah.
And the producer was like, figure it out, get back to me. And I was like, all right, I will. So I found some B-roll that like matched some like possibly one of the talent's hand movements, and I threw that on top of there and covered the spot and extended it so it didn't feel so quick, and then I fixed the problem, whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is creative problem solving, of knowing what you can do with your limitations.
Got it. So you're pretty much like really powerful problem solvers, like you're constantly solving problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that it's more of like a digital process, I think it's a problem solving plus IT.
Got it.
like really, and it kind of sucks that it's like two jobs into one, right? But it's fine for me.
I was wondering about like some of the other projects you worked on. So I saw that you had an internship to Conan, and I was wondering about the process to getting there. Like, how did you get that opportunity and then like capitalize on it? And
that's kind of a crazy story. So the summer of 2019, I was living in Ithaca and I was working for my mentor at her visual effects company, Flying Turtle Post, if you saw that.
Oh, I did. I found it.
Yep. So I was working for her, with her, up in Ithaca, and then I was planning to go to LA in the fall, so I think it was like August through December of 2019. And you're required, if you go there through the school, to get an internship, right? So that whole summer and even like, April, May, I was applying to things left and right. And I saw Conan available, and I knew that other kids from Ithaca had gotten Conan. And I was like, you know what? I'm interested in this. I'm just going to try it and see what happens. I threw my resume out there, and I kind of forgot about it for a while, honestly, because I was so busy with other things. And then while I was driving up to Ithaca, which is like 6.5 hours from Portsmouth or Jamestown at that point, I get a call and I picked it up. I was like, hello? Like, this is a weird number. Like, it's a California number. I was like, is it my dad maybe? Or is it, one of my family members who I don't have their phone number for?
Yeah.
To pick it up, I said hello, and she's like, hi, I'm, this person, and I saw your resume, and we're interested, and like, yada, 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 if you want to set up a time to like, talk or whatever. And I was like, I could do it now. And so I'm like driving through upstate New York, like on like a 1-lane highway in a 2002 Toyota Sienna van, right, with this woman from Conan on the phone. And so it went well, and I was like, okay, like, let me know. I'm gonna be in LA at this point. Just hit me up. And so I didn't hear anything for a long time, and I was like, duh, they didn't pick me. Like, I don't know anyone there and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 other places lined up. And then when I got to LA the second day, Conan called me and they were like, hey, just want to let you know, like, you're second on our list, and we only have 1 position, and we did give it to someone else, but just like, thank you for applying. It was great to meet you, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay. I was like, that sucks. And then I asked the woman who I was talking to, I was like, hey, do you mind, like, we connect on LinkedIn and see if we have any like common connections or whatever, because in a situation like that, it's more important to get that contact where like you don't just leave their immediate thought, you know what I mean?
Okay. So like continue to network afterward, even if you
network, even if you didn't get it and you had a nice conversation with this person who works in the industry, like, you can always ask them about their job. And she was a post-production coordinator, so I was like, that's interesting. I'm at least connect with her, and then I can ask her later like how her job is and stuff like that, because that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then I accepted 2 other positions. One would have been in Culver City, and one would have been in downtown LA, which I don't know how much LA geography you know, but I was living in Burbank. Okay. And so that was like, one way to Culver City is like an hour and a half, maybe, even though it's only like 12 miles.
Yeah, because that's how LA is.
Yeah. And then downtown LA would have been like 30-ish minutes, and I was going to do those every other day.
Also 2 different jobs?
2 different internships, yeah. Wow. And so I accepted those, and I told them I was ready to go. And then Sunday or Saturday, before I was going to start on Monday,
damn,
I got a call from the woman from Conan, and she was like, hey, so we have a unique situation where the person we hired can only do certain days at certain times. Would you be willing to like fill in during those times and then work as like a general production PA the rest of the time? And I was like, oh wow, like I'm gonna have to get back to you by the end of the day today. It was probably, when she called me, like 3:00, so I probably had 2 hours to make a decision. And then I thought about it and said, I'm never gonna have this opportunity again. I'm living in LA. It's the Warner Brothers lot was 1 mile walking from where I was living. Of
course you're going to do it then.
So I was like, I have to do it. And also, like, it's just a fun opportunity that's in my industry that I probably won't get again. And most people would be so fortunate to get. So I called her back. I was like, yep, I accept, whatever. Then I had to deal with the 2 places that I said yes to.
Yeah, what do you do in that situation?
Be as professional as possible. Be as not vague, but be as like polite as you can, while also making sure that they know what you're doing. Like,
got it. Like, so, be very transparent, or do you?
Yeah, hide? Very transparent and honest. So this one place that I was going to work was a development company. Where I'd be doing a lot of scripts, like reading scripts and script coverage, which is like basically reviewing scripts and then telling them if they should pay money to get the script or not get the script. That's a really simplified version, but it's basically so that executives don't have to read 120-page scripts. They can just read your 2-page script coverage instead. and then make a decision. So I was going to be doing that, which is a fun job. I've done it before. It's kind of interesting.
You get to read a bunch of stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, you get to read a bunch of stuff and, understand like writers' names and all that. And, you get to write as well, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So they took it really well. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry about this, but I've been offered a position I didn't think was available. And, it's a I didn't tell them where. That's also very important. I did not tell them
So
where.
you can't tell them where. That's what I was wondering.
No, you can. But I just chose not to because I didn't want it to sound like, I'm leaving your position because I got a position on Conan.
Yeah, that's stingy.
Yeah, I didn't want it to sound like that. So I was like, I'm getting a position that's better for my career and my trajectory, and I'm really sorry that I put you guys through this. If you need like help finding another candidate, like I can reach my contacts, whatever. But it was like a pleasure to meet you and talk to you, whatever. Maybe we'll meet again or something like that.
Yeah.
And they took it really well. Like they were like, oh, thanks for letting us know. Really happy for you. Let us know if you want a job again or all this stuff, and like best of luck.
That was the most professional way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and they were super nice. The other place, which was a post audio house that was also doing some editing, they were very upset with me. And I basically sent the same email, and the main guy, he was like, I take great umbrage in.
What's umbrage mean?
It just, I don't know. At the time I didn't know, but it's like very disrespectful, or like I take it very personally, and
it was so disrespectful. He opened up his thesaurus.
Yeah. He was like, I gotta find a word for this. So he didn't take it well. He was very upset. He basically told me like, I'm not gonna work in the industry anymore.
Oh my God.
It's not I'm young, so it's, you don't understand. Jeez. And I was like, I'm glad I'm not working for you now. Like that you've shown that you behave like this. But I didn't respond to that email. Like there's nothing else I could have said. There's nothing else I could have done. It's best to let it, let them sit in their own.
Yeah, just let them stew, I guess.
Right. And so, I told them what I was going to do. They responded terribly, and I didn't respond. And then I went to Conan, and that was great. So.
Yeah. So what is the Conan job specifically? I saw like PA, or like you're running the production as like an assistant.
Yeah, so PA is basically the lowest level job you can get in most film, TV, video production, whatever. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like, you're not an intern, but you do a lot of intern tasks. If you know what I mean, like the typical connotation of intern is go get coffee and go get, printer supplies and like help the office and stuff like that. And that's what I was doing. I was doing a lot of that, but I was also networking and talking with a lot of people who worked in the control room for the show. Also people who worked like in the editing department, the graphics department. And then I also worked in general production. So I got to really know or understand how the show worked from both ends of like post pre-production, and got to know most of the people involved.
I was curious, did your like demeanor and the way that you were behaving at set affect your opportunities that you had working there?
Absolutely. I mean, so I wasn't on set that much, but it's very important to remember that specifically on set, people are looking for someone to blame, because no one really wants to be on set very long, and the PAs are always the first to go. Because I mean, it's the nature of it. Like, you are the lowest position, so if you do one thing wrong, it's very easy to be.
Is it a high stress situation? Like, is it a high stress?
It can be. I mean, it can be a high stress situation, especially when it gets later into the day, and when you start pushing your 12 hours into a shoot, people just get grumpy, as anyone would if they were working for 12 hours on set with everyone else. So
with the 12 hours, how would your day go then from beginning to end in those 12 hours? Because that sounds like an extremely long day, but I've I've seen a lot of film productions. I haven't been to any, but I've seen a lot of people talk about them, and they're long affairs regardless. So I was wondering what your perspective is on that.
So Conan, because it's a broadcast show, had set every day from I don't know if I can say this.
Okay, then that's fine.
They have set at the end of the day from a certain time to a certain time.
Got it.
So it wasn't like 12 hours of actual set on Conan, but it's the same principle as like people are on set, they want to be there to get their job done and don't distract them, don't be an obstacle.
Don't chit chat. No one's interested.
Don't chit chat. So yeah.
Okay. If you can't tell me things, I'm totally okay with just
no. I'm thinking there's this one instance where we were bringing food for the entire crew because they were shooting pickups.
Yeah.
And I had a few other interns with me, and we went down to the set to give them their food. And someone else was making noise, not one of us, but they all turned to us and they were like be quiet, like we're filming.
Damn.
And I was like, okay. And I was quiet. I stopped moving. I just like held whatever I was holding. And one of the other interns like literally drops an entire plate of food.
Oh my God.
And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? I was like, and then it looks bad on me because I'm an intern too.
Oh my gosh. All of you guys are now assholes. Like,
yeah. So that was rough. But
gosh.
Yeah, Conan was fun, and I got to walk around the Warner Brothers lot a lot,
which is awesome.
Was excellent. I saw Leonardo DiCaprio once.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I saw that guy from you know the show Fresh Off the Boat?
Yeah.
Do you know the guy that is the manager of the restaurant, the white dude? He has like a gap in his teeth right here. I don't know his name, but I saw him a few times. I hit Conan with a door. Trying to remember. I handed Paul Rudd an action figure.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean,
that's Hollywood. They're right there.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So, overall, like the whole Conan experience was pretty awesome. Like, did anything like evolve from going there? Like, did you get opportunities from going to Conan, or maybe it's just something that like was like a name that added to your resume that gave you more opportunities?
I'm sure that in my applications after that, people see that and say, "Oh, like he worked at Conan" and stuff like that. I haven't seen any direct hiring from it, mostly because a lot of the connections I made there were great, but that kind of setting I found after working in it, I didn't want to be in. I didn't want to work in broadcast TV. You know, it's very clearly like a 9 to 5. Is creative, but you know, not really. Very high pressure situation. Your editors have probably an hour and a half to 2 hours to edit the whole show.
That's crazy. That's
after
like
airing. Yeah,
that's absurd.
There's a really good article about those guys. I think it's on Frame.io or something like that. But they're really talented and great people. But it was a lot for me, and I don't think I want to have an experience just like that in a late night show. A lot of people recommended I do the NBC Page program in New York City, and I was like, you know, I don't think that TV is for me in terms of broadcast and network. So
yeah. So if you're not interested in broadcast network, what do you want to do? What do you want to make?
I mean, I think ideally I want to do a combination of working as a freelance editor or DIT on set. I think my goal right now is to work as a DIT on set for a show that like travels a lot.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So I at least get to travel and go places and also do my job. And then I think further down the line be an editor, but also I know that editing is not my end goal. I think I
Got
want to
it.
be a post producer or a post supervisor or a post coordinator,
Got it.
because I find that to be kind of fun.
So what draws you so much to editing and then like being part of the post-production process? Because like I don't see you talking about being in front of cameras. I don't see you talking about holding the camera. You're not interested in that. So why the editing specifically?
I think it's definitely like related back to like my comfortability with computers and my comfortability with like manipulation of images afterwards. Like again,
Yeah.
with photography, I really enjoy doing that, and something with the visual arts. Um, I think also somewhat. I'm not a musician. Sometimes I play music, but I think listening to a lot of music and understanding music gives you a sort of like natural rhythm
Got it.
to editing and post that is pretty important.
Got it.
I think that draws me to it as well.
What is this rhythm with post editing? I'm curious about that.
So like in a lot of your like, for example, like movie trailers and stuff, you can find rhythms in the way it's cut. So
Yeah.
and purposeful breaking of rhythms, right? And that's a key part of editing. It's not doing the same thing for the whole video, because that's,
Boring.
right? So doing
Yeah.
one thing, finding a creative way to transition to a different rhythm, finding a creative way to transition to a different rhythm, and then stuff like that.
Got it.
But I just think that's kind of fun, honestly.
Like
That's
why else
really
would
the
you do
answer.
it? Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've had doubts of like whether I want to be in this industry, just because it takes so much out of you,
Yeah.
a lot. But I don't know. I don't know where I'm going, really.
Yeah. At least I saw that you're freelance editing now. How was that whole experience? Because a lot of people they go do something, right? They go to become a filmmaker, they go to do this other thing. Like personally for me, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to hold the camera. But the thing is I'm not making money from it. So how do you go from it being something that you're passionate about and it's a talent to like actually making money from it?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of connection based.
Okay.
It really is. So if you meet someone who works on set and you're like, hey, I want a PA, being a PA is very important for connections, right?
Got it.
And meeting other people who are working in the industry. I think there are ways to present yourself as a creative. So, for example, like when quarantine started in March, I said to myself, like, I'm gonna graduate in a few months, and I don't have a job lined up, and I have no idea what is the scope of like jobs,
Got
like
it.
what is gonna happen, because no one knows. So I was like, I need to take this time that I have and make a website for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And I think that really helped me get a job, because I applied to places, people went to my website, saw that I had done something similar before, and I
Mm-hmm.
like had a good design, and then, got
You
me an interview.
you remind me of a book I read recently. It's Show Your Work. It's a pretty interesting book, but it talks about how like a lot of people, they actually want to see that you made something. They don't want you to just talk about how you like made this and that. It's like, where is it? Like, where is it? And you have the proof in your website.
Yeah, no, that is a big thing. And a lot of editors, when you're freelance editing, you have reels or show
Mm-hmm.
reels. So I can give you my website, and I have my reel on there, 2 reels.
Yeah.
But then it's like a short thing that should never be over 2 minutes long, that someone can look at and say, look at like this interesting thing they presented with the work they've done, right?
Yeah,
And
got it.
that they can do it. And that's across the board. Like you can make an editing reel, which is kind of interesting, because it's like, how do you show that you know how to edit with a reel that combines things that have no context to each other,
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You can also do it for like visual effects. You can also do it for animation. You can also do it for, if you're a director of photography, you can do a DP reel, which just shows your most pretty shots with music.
Do you do visual effects? I'm curious.
I don't love it, and I'm a little afraid of the direction the industry's going, specifically because of Marvel.
What's the problem with it?
outsourcing is my biggest concern,
Yeah.
where they're
I've heard
sending a
that.
lot of the jobs that involve visual effects to other countries to get it done really cheap and exploiting labor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taking the same concept of manufacturing in the US, but applying it to filmmaking. So a lot of visual effects, rotoscoping, which is like one of the really basic things you can do, is
Yeah.
outsourced to India. So if you look at any Marvel movie, at the end there'll be a long like block of text of rotoscopers, and more often than not, it's a lot of outsourced talent.
Wow. And they're probably underpaid and they're just cutting costs. And
Yeah, I mean,
they're
like,
talented. Like they could obviously work in the industry and get paid as much as everyone else, but they're offsourcing it to India because they don't want to pay the money.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
and like underpaid is a relative term. Like I'm sure they're paid fine for like where they live, but for for the amount of work they're doing, it's definitely underpaid.
Got it. Do you think
Um,
also like outsourcing it maybe not changes the quality of the work, but changes the direction of the work?
it can. I
Yeah.
think what they do is they hire like a manager for outsourcing, or they hire a company that then the company is the manager of the outsourcing.
Yeah.
It's pretty complicated, and I don't really understand it at all.
Yeah.
Another reason why I don't really want to be in visual effects is AI is starting to play a really big role
Yeah. It's
in
huge.
visual effects, and like specifically with technology as well, is like advancing beyond having to do it as a job, you know. So
Yeah.
like the Mandalorian, for example, has
Mhm.
the like 20-foot LED wall, right?
Yeah. Using the I forgot which engine it's called, but it's using a game
Unreal.
engine to simulate the area.
Yeah, they're using Unreal for that.
Yeah.
Um, and then like motion tracking it with the camera, and then it like just makes an image, and it's like, okay, well, we've just saved $1 million of our visual effects budget because we spent 500,000 on this wall,
Yeah.
and we can use it again and again and again
I
and
remember when
again and again.
that technology was introduced. I was like, "Holy shit, this is going to change the whole industry." I
Yeah,
remember
and
that.
so that's what I'm slightly worried about. um, Adobe is really pushing AI powered visual effects tools. They're not great, but they're pushing it.
They are getting
um,
there. If you have you ever heard of Corridor? I forgot the
so
first
Corridor Digital.
Corridor Digital. They
Yeah.
like do AI stuff sometimes, and it's like they're just like one or two people, and they're like popping out stuff that you would not expect from like you would
Mhm.
need like a 10 or 20 people to make.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
so that gets a little crazy for me,
I
which is
understand that. I would, yeah.
which is why I think I want to go more in like a supervision or a coordination route than like a
Mhm.
technical thing. But
So you've worked on a few projects, which is pretty impressive for anyone. Like especially like at the age you are now, you've worked on so many projects. It's like what?
there's
Seriously, it's
people
pretty
who,
impressive.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but I was wondering about so when you're doing the freelance editing, what is the process of your editing? Like what are you doing like your day by day to continue your business?
Yeah, so right now I'm in a unique situation where the company I'm freelanced for really likes me, and they
Mm,
wanted to make me full time, but there are problems with full time, which means like, one, I can't take on any side work if I wanted to.
yeah,
Um, two, because I would be getting like health benefits, I'd be getting a cut in my pay, and
got
right
it.
now I'm under uh, my dad has health insurance for now
Got it.
until I'm 27. So right now I'm gonna like try to. I'm in a privileged situation where I can like not take the health benefits and like make more money to save up, and then when I don't, I could spend that on my fucking healthcare, which is like messed up this whole
Yeah.
situation is with the country. But
Getting hired costs more.
yeah, I mean, so my day to day is is different than a lot of people's, but I have constant communication with my supervisor, with producers for certain jobs. And what they'll do is they'll get me the drives. Like, I'm going to show you
Okay,
my
let's see it.
collection of drives right now. It's not
See
that
this?
many, but like
Oh, that's a lot. Come on. Those are probably 2 to 3 terabytes or something
that
crazy
one.
like
Yeah,
that.
these are each two, I believe. This one would be four. This one would be four.
Jeez.
And then these are each five.
God, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. So, um, anyway, they ship me the footage. I get it organized, and then they just start cutting based on like what they want.
Okay.
A lot of what we do at this company is not film or TV. It's internal pharmaceutical videos
Got it.
for the companies. So it's not like very difficult.
Oh, your mic. It's hard to hear you. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's not very difficult.
Yeah.
Like super challenging of work, but it is work.
Got it.
During a pandemic where I wouldn't have work.
So how do you like interpret someone else's wants? Like, do you add your own flair to it, or is there?
Depends. Sometimes I have a talk with the producer first, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what is this? If they say, okay, this is a doctor giving a presentation online with slides in their video, my first thought is, okay, I'm gonna cut out where they like have any major flubs in their performance, where they like stutter, all that stuff. I'm gonna do that, but I have to also take into account that their video's gonna be in the video. So if I cut out something, it's gonna either look like a jump or something. I have to figure out ways to make that flow better, right? And it's like, how am I gonna visually present that? And that's where I get the most freedom. Is like, well, I can't really talk about the big project that I'm working on currently.
Oh,
It's
don't dispel anything that you're
I won't do that one,
but
but typically the slide in VO for voiceover edits, I have creative control over what they look like, and so I try to go based on the brand colors of like the company that I'm working for, and I kind of make it like look nice, I guess.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of interviews on YouTube of like musicians, and sometimes when it's been on Zoom, I watch like the style of them. So for one of them, I copied or I mimicked. There's an interview of Damon Albarn from Gorillaz with Anthony Fantano, and so I watched that stream, and I liked the style that they used, where they had their like video feeds, and they had like a kind of a drop shadow, but it was a very hard black box around it.
Yeah.
And so I copied that style for one of these. I obviously changed the colors and everything, and I added my own like thing to it, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Actually, I'm very surprised where you found your inspiration.
Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
And that really helps a lot. I'm editing a commercial now. I can't really tell you what, but I am editing a commercial, and that is interesting because I've never cut something that's going to be consumer facing afterwards.
Yeah.
And I have more or less creative control on how I'm going to edit it, with direction of like, this is the voiceover that needs to go in there, right? This is the music that we like, but I don't, on the first cut, which I haven't done yet, I get to pick the music.
Okay.
And see how that goes. I think I have a pretty good track, but I think they're going to hate it.
Yeah, I was thinking about music. I've noticed that you're like really into musical artists and understanding, because I looked on your socials, and I found that you listen through a whole album and then you like interpret and understand it.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, how does that influence your editing? Because I hear you referencing your music a lot. Like, does it really like impact it completely?
I think it's in the same vein of like, it's performing arts, right? And I find that interesting. Mm-hmm. And when I'm editing stuff like this, I think a lot of things that student editors don't understand fully is how important a music track is to your edit. Or at least it's something I didn't really understand until recently. And how critical it is to understand tone and mood of music while you're editing, right?
Okay. I never thought about that.
It's very important because you don't want your um, project to be misconstrued as something else because of your music choice. You know,
Got it.
um,
That makes perfect sense.
so listening to a lot of music, like I force myself to listen to a lot of music so I can understand tone and also like keep up with what's happening in like the music industry too. I'm very bad at listening to a lot of like modern pop and modern um, I want to say modern like hip hop, but that's not even the right word for it
More like
anymore.
lo-fi almost. It's like
Yeah,
weird.
I'm like I try to keep up with it, but I can't keep up with like Takashi 6 9 and like
You would sticky.
yeah, I can't, and I can't keep up with like with that crowd
Yeah.
in terms of music because I think I don't understand it, and I
Yeah.
don't appreciate. I don't appreciate it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just like I come from a different
Yeah.
musical background that I don't appreciate that. So it's fine. But I really try to listen to everything.
I'm
Except
surprised how
country.
intentional you are with your music choices and listening to music and staying in tune with the industry. I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah, I think social media helps a lot. I follow pretty much exclusively music content and bands and like magazines and stuff like that.
Okay.
I really need to go to a show. I really miss shows. Uh,
I feel
it's
that.
so
Yeah.
bad. I think the last show I went to, and that's why in LA it was so awesome because like shows were happening all the time with bands I actually wanted to see, and I
Yeah.
could go. But now obviously now I can't. Now I
Yeah.
live closer to New York. I was excited to do that, but
I was wondering how has like COVID affected your life? Because film is very in person. You know what I mean? Like you're talking to people in person. Even in the editing process, you're meeting with people. There's conversations happening. You're collaborating all throughout the day. So how has that affected you?
sure. I mean, in a real world, I would be going into the office to sit in an edit bay and not sit at home, and I'd be having conversations with the producers, my supervisor, and stuff like that about the edits, and I think things would be a little more productive. Uh, it hasn't changed the way I've worked because I've always been sort of like I work from home
Yeah,
with most of my stuff. So like when in July I got this position, it didn't super change anything for me.
that's good.
I found it to be increasingly difficult to stay focused at home though.
Yeah,
Like
I felt that too.
if I have to
Yeah.
work from like 10 to 6, I find it very hard to just stay entirely focused like 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so like it also has decreased my like on-set opportunities because they're just not happening. And if they are happening, I don't want to go because I really don't want coronavirus.
Yeah, I don't want it either.
It must
uh,
be pretty safe though. You're in Washington or you're in Oregon?
I'm in Oregon and I'm staying here with my mom and I'm living here and I'm trying the whole social media thing and I'm learning how to film and everything, pretty much starting from scratch. But I have something to talk about that. So I was working on content for a bit. And I was kind of just pumping stuff out, right? And then in the last 2 days, I stopped because I found two things. First, my next interviewee, he went on my stream and he said quality over quantity. And I really thought about that. And then I watched this video by Mr. Beast and he talks about his YouTube videos and he's like, yo, the algorithm, the only thing it cares about is if they see the video, if they watch it all the way through, and then if they pick another video. And if they aren't doing that, your video is not good enough. And then I like looked at my content, and even though it was high quality, nobody finished it. And I had a whole reset of like quality over quantity. So I was curious about your perspective on that, like quality over quantity.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think it depends on the type of content you're making, and I think that like social media and the internet are like really changing the way people perceive media. and consume media. So like, if you imagine you're Jake Paul and Logan Paul, right? And you've
Yeah.
got a lot of subscribers. You don't have to put any effort into your videos at all, right? I mean,
No.
not at all, but like minimal, right? And that's um, quantity over quality in their case. Like they pump it out like once a day, and it's like a video of I kissed my sister.
Yeah, and they're like, okay,
Clickbait.
I have to click it, which is
Right.
whatever.
So yeah, I mean, I would argue that it's a fine line to toe between both of them, because I think if you aren't posting frequently enough, people do forget you. But if you're not posting good content, people are not going to watch you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting line. Like, I don't know if you follow Donkey at all, or like how much
Yeah,
you
I
follow
do.
him.
I love watching him stuff.
But when he just did the whole thing of like, I'm done putting effort into my videos and I'm just going to stream and I'm going to just like make whatever I want. Like like his fan base loves it, and they like, I love it too, but it's continuing. Like, he doesn't have to put that much effort into it, right?
Yeah.
Now he can make more content without, losing all his time to.
It was surprising though. He did that for a while, and he kind of reverted back to his old style almost for a while.
Yeah,
it's hard for him to step away from that.
Yeah, I like his stream.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's something I've been considering.
I've noticed too, like on the platform, just in general, I find that my favorite content is the stuff that takes the longest, just personally for me. But that stuff like dies, like it's never rewarded. YouTube doesn't give a crap. Yeah. Like, how do you think that's affecting film overall? Because I think that's like not just a problem with YouTube, but I think it's a problem with the whole industry. Like, it's like fast.
I think it's an attention span thing. I think us as a society, including myself, have shortened our attention spans based on we have access to so much information from the internet. That could be just, me rambling about something. I could have no merit to that, but that's what I think. And I mean, you're right. Like, Netflix pumps out stuff every day,
just like
left and right. And they're all expensive, or not all, but most of them are super expensive. My friend just got done working on Don't Look Up, which is the oh my god, I forgot. Adam McKay directed that. It has like Leonardo DiCaprio and like Jennifer Lawrence and like Kid Cudi and like Ariana Grande and Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep. It's like
a comedy. Like, how much is it?
It's like, I don't know, but the budget was a lot of money. And they shot in
Wait, is this public knowledge though, or do I have that? Am I gonna have to cut this?
Oh no, you're not gonna.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they released everything for it.
Okay, that's crazy. It's just money, throw out. But like, how do you feel about, like, because I've noticed a lot of like older directors, they talk about a lot about the integrity of film. Like, the idea of filmmaking is dying, or like, I only see the music in film. What do you think about that? I've seen your eye roll. You have some pretty strong opinions.
I think you're referencing Martin Scorsese being there's no film anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Quentin says stuff like that too.
Oh, and he's annoying. Hate him. It's just like, it sucks that he makes good movies.
Yeah.
Because he's an asshole. I don't know. I think that is I think that's an antiquated way of thinking, because things have changed so much. I think it's the same argument of like boomers being like, no one makes good music anymore. Like, all good music is dead. And it's like, no, just the popular things are not. Like, you just have to try.
Just make stuff.
Just think. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the the Oscars are not a good indication of like the state of film. But if you've seen Oscar nominations, like, they're really good movies, and that's just a small fraction of really good films that are consistently being put out. I think it's that a lot of major studios don't want to fund really creatively crazy projects anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's misdirected anger, I guess, at the film community instead of the people who are spending the money to produce your stuff.
Yeah. I like a quick thought, but WandaVision, when it came out, they said it was like really risky. Like they never expected big studio to do that. And I was thinking about like that whole thought process. I was like, 10 or 20 years ago, this isn't risky. You know what I mean? Like it's different. Like the whole industry has changed where they're very safe.
Yeah, they're trying to be very safe. I mean, this is a world of sequels and remakes that we are currently living in as the mainstream, right? Like the mainstream things that are coming out are sequels and remakes that people want to see, like, and that make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not. I don't want to work on those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Independent film, I think, is where.
So I had another idea. Now this ties into video games and their interactivity, but I feel that there's going to be this moment where video games, because I'm already seeing it, where like film editors and film directors are going into video games and they're directing and filming them, and they don't have any experience with video games. It's just like they can instinctually use that process because it's almost the same.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that maybe the evolution of film is video games. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that if it was gonna happen, it was gonna happen when no one could go into a movie theater anymore.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I don't think movies are gonna like just die. I think they're either gonna keep getting really long or really short in terms of length.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that a lot of directors are going to start hopping on that video game bandwagon because it's visual storytelling with camera angles. It's kind of like a no-brainer. Like if I was a very good director,
and it's complete freedom.
If I was a video game director, or if I was a film director, and like EA offered me like $4 billion, not really, $4 million to direct a video game. You don't need to be on set. You don't need to be on set. You don't have to shoot anything.
You're just in a building and you're talking to people. It's still a really difficult job, but it's like it's in a different situation.
Yeah, you storyboard everything. You talk to a director of photography, but you don't have to shoot.
Yeah, you might do mocap maybe like once in a while, but that's it. It's crazy.
Voiceover.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as like a visual medium too. Like for example, like Last of Us Part 2, like that came out and now they're making a Last of Us show. But that, like, I remember when that first one came out and I was like, oh, it's here. Like these are movies now. Like, especially like Red Dead Redemption 2, I just finished that. I felt like I was playing an HBO series. Like it legitimately was like a full show and I just played a show.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought, I just keep thinking about that, how like, I don't see film's going to take a lot of directions. Also, what about like 3D, like the headsets, like virtual reality? How is that going to go? Like, that's a whole nother film category on its own.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that dystopia.
Yeah, you call it a dystopia. No. You're not a fan?
No. Well, I think they're fun. I think they're cool.
Yeah.
I played it one time. I actually, Cleo's boyfriend let me use it one time.
Yeah.
And played the game where you like dodge. It's not super hot, but you dodge bullets to like the beat of like music, and then you shoot with two.
Yeah.
And that like
Beat
it's
Saber,
fun.
I think, is that what it's called?
No, not Beat Saber. It's another one that's not Beat Saber, and it's not super hot. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very interesting to hear everything from your perspective, because I feel like so much of an outsider when I hear all this information, because I would have never thought of these things. Like just in this hour, I've learned more than I would have learned on my own with all the research I do. And just thank you for coming on. Seriously, it's really helped.
No, of course. And just let me know if you like need any more info or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're gonna end the podcast here, but thank you. Seriously. This is like really useful information. Like people are gonna like eat this shit up. I'm not kidding.
I hope so.
Yeah. It's gonna be good.
What is the name of this podcast again?
behind the credits.